cafe, and wow!
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Welcome to FF episode 2425, and Mike Matthews. I wasn't going to do a show today, but suddenly...
Mike's Daily Podcast.
There you were. You suddenly appeared, and I had to do a podcast here at Cafe anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valley. That's my name, Mike Matthews. That's the name for me. And I think I sometimes have to go through life, have to think of things that are nice, because otherwise I go crazy. My name's Mike. You know what I think you all need?
Mike's Daily Podcast
is a break from the news. News can be very
Mike's
depressing,
Daily
discouraging
Podcast.
So it's good to take a break.
Yeah!
And this is interesting. There's a guy who is a consultant for media, for broadcasters. He's had this newsletter for a long time, and I happen to be in the newsletter, and I never read it, but I happen to read it today, and he said this: national news is highly repetitive with the same stories every hour. People don't regionalize news. National news versus local news. They divide news into two categories: news they care about and news that doesn't interest them. Network news typically is the news that doesn't interest them unless it's a breaking story, like Ukraine. Listeners when they listen to radio anyway, want more local news, stuff that affects them. About 50% of Americans may tune out radio network news on the hour because it doesn't reflect their values or geographical interests. ABC and CBS radio networks share the reputation of their TV networks, even though the same company does not own them. I didn't know that. Really? The TV CBS doesn't own the radio CBS? These radio networks may not reflect the political views.
And here's today's podcast picture
of the listeners, and therefore this guy was saying don't use them. So here's an idea. He also says, this consultant, don't make fun of the music. Even if you don't like it, don't understand it, or are tired of it, act the role and keep quiet about it. Yes, believe it or not, that is a rule in radio. That's why you hardly ever hear a DJ on a commercial station, one that's, got the commercials on it, unlike a college station. That's the late great Basil the Boxer, everybody, right there. Yes. Basil would always complain about music all the time. There would be songs he didn't like and he'd complain. He'd tell me. The late great Basil the Boxer. Okay. And we'll do I don't know what the podcast picture is. We'll do something recent. Something fascinating that you'll enjoy. Oh my gosh, I got a text from Sylvia. But she did not text 336MM Daily. That's 3 + 3 = 6. MM as in Mike Matthews, Daily as in what this podcast is. No, she texted my personal number because she knows it. So she says, "Hey Mike, it's Sylvia. I'm behind on the podcast, but I just listened to the latest one the other day and heard about your mom. I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm not sure when it happened, but I hope you are doing well." Thank you, Sylvia. Don't know when you're going to be listening to this podcast, but yes, unfortunately, it happened on Valentine's Day this year, and I ended up going to Florida. Not the next day, not the next day, but about 2 days later, was in Florida for the middle part of February and taking care of stuff. And you know what? Speaking of which, let's post a podcast picture from Florida. Thank you, Sylvia, for helping us find a podcast picture today. You had a hand in it. Hey, you can have a hand in picking the podcast picture if you call 336MM Daily, or you can also comment. Email me, mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com, or comment on any of the social media I am on, or go to the website, mikesdailypodcast.com. But yes, thank you so much, Sylvia. Wow. It's amazing when people contact me via the channels on the internet. One of the other things, so they were talking about that story about, or the consultant who was talking about the problem with network news. That's the problem with network news. You might have a bunch of problems with it. You may not like the political leanings of network news. It is very repetitious. You do hear the same stories all the time. Repetition, it's also very prevalent in music, in radio. You hear the same songs all the time. Oh my gosh, if I hear that song by Justin Bieber one more time, or Ed Sheeran, or whatever it is. However, or Adele, somebody on the way home today from work, I'm stopped at a stoplight in Hayward on Mission Boulevard, and there's a guy listening with all the windows rolled down, blasting as loud as possible Adele. Yes, a song from Adele. Can you guess which one? Nope, not Hello. Nope, not the newest one. The one, what is that one? Not that one. It was Never Mind, I'll Find Somebody Like You. Blasting that one. That came out, 10 years ago? It's been a while now. Gosh. Nope. Easy on Me is the newest one. There we go. Which was also a song by the Little River Band. Little River Band was from Australia. I forget who the lead singer was, but he was replaced for a short while by John Farnham, who had an amazing voice. Oh, he sang the song We Too, which was I don't think it was a huge hit in America, but it did get on the charts. And We Too, gosh, John Farnham, wow, what a song. And I talked to Sebastian Gorka, who is a big conservative talk show host, and he is Hungarian, but grew up in England, worked for Trump. As we go outside a cafe anyway, we're bringing Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth. And I said, hey, you played John Farnham, the voice. You're the voice, trying to understand it. Make a noise and make it clear, oh. I go, that's pretty cool. You know, that song wasn't that big of a hit here in America. And he said, oh, yes, it was. I'm like, you're talking to the music master, Sebastian. I think I know. I mean, it wasn't like an obscure hit, but it was much bigger in Australia. But that's what Sebastian said. No, it was a huge hit song. I'm Orson Welles. So, you need repetition and you're learning anything. If you're trying to learn something, like the lyrics to the song. Never mind, I'll find somebody like you. There are 4 phases in a learning cycle. This from inksoft.com. Here are the 4 phases: anxiety, learning, comfort, and teaching. Anxiety. This is when you're just starting to learn something. What if I make a mistake? All the what ifs clog the brain. It makes it difficult to learn. So then the best way to combat that is don't have any negativity. Help if you're trying to teach somebody or teach yourself, don't be negative. Just try and be positive with the whole thing. Then the stage where the magic happens is learning, when things fall into place and start to click. That there is the comfort in attaining the goal, comfort in learning what it is that you're trying to learn. And then you want to teach it to other people. Teaching is the ultimate level. It means you possess the skill at such a high level that you can teach others. Like the comfort level too, it also means you are constantly learning. We're always learning. There are only 4 things to remember. With teaching tasks, there are only a few things to remember. When you're teaching someone, tell them what they're going to learn, show them how to do it, let them do it, and then review the results, and then repeat. There, we covered a bunch of stuff. I wanted to cover one last thing that I found very interesting about that this consultant sent out. Oh, I did cover the part about making fun of the music. Don't do that. He also said, this consultant said, you should do idea theft. Avoid getting hung up on the pride of authorship. If someone else has done something that works, adapt it. In this case, to your show, to your radio show. Borrow like a banshee, he says. And then he says, over-prepare. Use everything you can get your hands on, including joke books. Just change the joke to be topical. Don't feel guilty over leaving unused prep on the cutting room floor. Prep. They call it prep in the radio world, if you didn't know. Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to share that. That's what consultants say. If you are deciding on starting a podcast yourself and want to venture into that world. Hey, look who's here. Outside a cafe anyway, somewhere in Podcaster Valley. Hello, Michael Master. It's Madame Rootabega. And yes, I love all this stuff about learning about doing the radio. Ooh. You want to be a DJ? Yes. You want to play a bunch of songs? Yes. And they're all by Adele? No. Okay, you want to vary it up a little bit. That's good. Look who else is here. Hello there, Mike. This is Valentino, the bartending. And this is Bison Bentley. Do you know that? Mike, we heard it rained a lot tonight. Yeah, rained a lot. Do you know that? Yeah, there's a lot of puddles out here. Cafe anyway, somewhere in Podcaster Valley. The last place on earth. In the parking lot, lots of puddles. And it was raining cats and dogs, so make sure you don't step on a puddle. And that's an old joke that I used and I made it mine, like the consultant told me I was supposed to do. Thank you. So you can also text that number 336MM Daily. Oh wait, what's the number again?
Call now 336MM Daily.
Excellent. So if you would like to tell me what you think about anything, but I know you don't listen. I know you're not a listener. I know you don't exist because nobody ever texts that number. They text my personal number, but they don't text this number. Interesting. And I know it works because I just checked it. It works. Or you can email me or comment anywhere on social media, but I know you won't, and I know you don't, and I know you don't exist, and that's all right. That's okay. You just go on and remember, I'm a curious George like you, curious about all kinds of things in this world. And that's why I look it up. And that's why I try and learn with repetition. And you just do it. Do it. You can do it. You can do it. Even though you don't exist. Thank you for not existing, but yet listening to the show, even though you don't listen. And with more ways to contact me and explain all of that to you, it is A-Frame.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!